Money. We all know what that is. We all know how we want to spend it and how we plan on earning it as adults. Yet why does money scare everyone? Well, of course, at least the people that have to worry about it. Could this fear be intertwined with the lack of this? Financial literacy is not only beneficial, but even more than that, mandatory. Let's start with an exercise. You are a 17-year-old student who is aware that the young adult life is just around the corner. How do you feel? What are you thinking about? What causes you anxiety? As we are growing up and making our way towards adulthood, discussions on the basis of questions similar to the ones I've asked you are inevitable. Well, I've taken part in several of them, of course, yet they didn't focus on the excitement of starting a new life, of going to college, or such other positive things. Rather, they were focusing on fear, and probably not the kind of fear you'd be expecting. Because it wasn't about moving to another country and being alone, and it might sound childish, but it was about the fear of having to deal with taxes, budgeting money, taking out credits, paying mortgages, and other simple and fundamental economic concepts you should be taught in school. Oh, but wait. Romanian public schools do not teach us this kind of things. Yes, we do have an economics course in our junior year of high school, yet the formulas we learned there aren't going to help us know how to balance our earnings, spendings, and savings, insofar as we don't eventually end up broke. Hence the fear I was telling you about. What percentage of Romania's population do you think has basic financial literacy knowledge? Hold out your hand if you think it's 50% or higher. Now, who thinks it's lower than 50%? Well, prepare yourselves for the answer, because it's most probably actually not what you're expecting. 8%. Now, within that 8%, do you think that there's a female majority or a male majority? Let the information sink in a bit. 92% of Romania's population isn't financially educated. But actually, giving it a second thought, having to deal with self-teaching yourself economics, a difficult, time-consuming, and after all, expensive process, is sure to pose a barrier for many. And that barrier is staying in the way of that 8% from becoming a 50%, or as in the best case scenario, of course, as close to 100% as possible. Now, in addition to those already existing barriers, there are other additional obstacles girls have to face and overcome when starting to learn about economics, such as the classic finance is a men's subject. Something I've heard one too many times. Similar to actually any of the STEM domains being mostly associated with men. My profile in school is mathematics, computer science, bilingual English, and I'm also passionate about economics. So, obviously, people have had several occasions to tell me that such options aren't viable for women, they are simply designed for men. So, girls who wish to learn about finance don't only need to deal with the difficulty of self-teaching economics, but also with that of being essentially forced to prove that they're as good as boys. With being taken seriously when they talk about finance. Now, we have acknowledged the issue, and of course, I truly do consider that acknowledging the issue is indeed the first step in overcoming, yet it isn't enough. So, here are 3 steps and 3 things you actually need in order to become more financially educated. 1, exposure. Finance isn't a subject you usually discuss. Beginning with economics as a whole being considered a taboo topic in Romanian households, let us compare how many times your parents set you down at the kitchen table, let's say, to discuss about how they earn their money, how they pay their taxes, how they budget, and other such things. And how many times they set you down to discuss what college you're going to attend and what you're going to do with your life. Both of them are far away in the future, or actually so it seems because they actually aren't. Yet why do we consider one to be more important than the other? I consider financial literacy actually, to be just another language. Imagine you just picked up German, okay? It would be definitely way easier to learn it if the people around you spoke it, if the TV was set to that language, if you were essentially forced to change your life entirely to German. For every single word that you're unfamiliar with, you need to open the dictionary and learn the meaning, because otherwise, how will you ever know what das Geld means, or in comparison, what crowdfunding translates to? Yet, if everyone around you speaks your native language and telling you that it's virtually, useless to learn another language, your motivation to learn German in this case will diminish, and actually, maybe even disappear. Yet, you cannot expect and you cannot base on the fact that others will expose you to finance. You need to expose yourself. Start by going on online economics magazines and then read some articles, then read some books after you've narrowed down your interests. Find organizations and join them which focus on financial literacy. Listen to podcasts. Whatever you want, just simply take advantage of every single opportunity you have to learn more about economics. And most importantly, an advice I consider very, very important is don't be afraid to ask questions. 2, understanding the market. I'm sure that most of you are probably familiar with the sell me this pen interview question, right? Well, if not, to explain it briefly, it's a question with highly debated answers since it's considered quite tricky. And that is because you don't need to sell the actual product, you need to sell what changes that product could cause into the customer's life. Well, what would you say if I told you that this is how the market approaches girls, especially? Don't believe me? Okay, well, how many times have you come across some post on social media telling you that you need this lipstick? Do you actually? The truth is most probably not, right? How many times have you come across a trend such as the clean girl makeup aesthetic, and that has led to you purchasing a product because you need to be on the trend, right? You need to look how the market tells you to look. Well, wrong. More, let's talk about the pink tax. You are buying a product made for women, so you have to pay more, even though you could find the same product, this time made for men, which costs less. The New York City Consumer Affairs actually released a study on this, and they show how a pair of jeans for women is $88, while the same one from the same brand, this time for men, is $68. That's quite a difference, isn't it? Most importantly, the study concludes with the fact that women's products cost 7% more than similar products for men. Why do you need to know this? So that you are aware of such traps. And maybe this could help you avoid them. Maybe next time when you see a product on social media, you'll ask yourself, do I actually want it? Is it me that wants it? Or is it the fact that the media and the market convince me that I need it? Maybe now, when you go and want to buy a product for women, let's say, you will consider checking the price in the men's section, and maybe this way end up spending less, actually. 3, forget the stereotypes. A mom and a dad, who do you associate with money? Which one of them do you expect to sit you down at the kitchen table and teach you about finance? Let's take it another way. A husband and a wife. Is one of them attributed to dealing with budgeting money, or should they actually both? In an utopian world, the answer is both, mom and dad. Both husband and wife. Yet in order to achieve that, women need to fight present stereotypes by being familiar with finance, by being financially independent. Coming back to what I said before, that finance isn't a men's subject. As a woman, you need to be financially independent so that you don't end up depending on your partner. Because if you do, you might find yourself stuck in a toxic relationship just because you don't have your own income, so therefore you don't have the resources to provide a house for yourself. Simply just, you don't have the resources to build an independent and sustain an independent life. These are just 3 things. Let's consider them the introductory steps through which to become more financially educated. Yet, you must not stop here. Because of that, actually, earlier this year, I co-founded an NGO which has the mission of making financial literacy accessible to everyone, especially women in Eastern Europe and other minorities. At our association, we also focus on promoting financial literacy and the importance of it, because as I've said, acknowledging the issue is the first step in overcoming it. And we have planned to achieve our mission through organizing events, webinars, through posts on social media, articles on our website, and such other. And we have already begun our journey, having organized 1 webinar and 2 other events, and currently being in the process of working on other initiatives. Yet apart from being able to, offer free economic resources, I also love that we are able to create a safe space where people can ask questions, but also a safe space where people want to help each other by sharing knowledge. And because of that, I truly do consider that joining an organization which focuses on financial literacy is an opportunity to learn yourself, either by being completely introduced to finance or by broadening your knowledge. Because let's say you're new to economics, okay? You will have to organize events, and that will expose you to lectures of speakers which might offer, and actually for sure will offer advice you'd otherwise have to search for on your own, to a dedicated community, and to the participants of the events, which might ask questions you didn't even know you had until then. The reason for which I co-founded this NGO is because I was one of the people that had to learn economics by myself. And on top of that, as a girl. So, if you remember what I told you at the start, when you start this whole path of learning about finance on your own, you will encounter certain barriers. And this association has the mission of eliminating those barriers, as many as possible. So, what is the main point I'm making here? That you need to be financially independent. You need to be financially literate so that you avoid the unnecessary fear of taxes, so that you don't spend all that you earn, so that you can essentially build a life for yourself. But within that, everyone, I stress the need for women to immerse themselves into economics. Forget the stereotypes. You need to be financially independent. But how does one actually start learning about economics, you might ask? Ask the people around you who already have knowledge in the domain the questions you have. See what books economists are recommending and choose the ones which approach topics you're interested in. It's completely fine if you do not know what you're interested in yet. Go on online magazines, economic magazines, and then you will be able to narrow down your interests. See and search actually every single thing you're unfamiliar with when you read, from terms to concepts. And when you read, form new questions on the basis of what you've read. Get involved in organizations which focus on financial literacy so that you surround yourself with people you can share knowledge with. Find courses to attend. And most importantly, remember, you can't level the playing field if you aren't aware of the rules of the game. Thank you.